Hello and welcome back to Fire for Revival. Now today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Normally you look at me and you see like my whole face. I mean obviously my head's cut off. That's because we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And I'm going to start by changing your point of view. First, we're going to look down here at this. Now, I've always been intrigued by these. I'm not going to say their name even though most of you know what they are because I don't know how like copyright stuff works. But it's a building block toy. And it's such a simple toy, they've always intrigued me. Just the way that you can take random little pieces and then just by messing with them and putting them together, you can build crazy stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I've already built this set before. And I'm also not gonna lie, I actually own a couple versions of this. Just because I really, like I said, I enjoy this toy. But it's a really good example for life lessons. Because you take this, what looks like a bunch of random pieces. So you take all this and just say, this is somebody's life. Now I could make the joke of like, yeah, it's like all exploded and pieces are everywhere and nobody knows what's going on. That's the joke of what everybody's life is. And it's true. People's lives seem crazy. And when you look at it from our perspective, you see this. You see the chaos, you see things going everywhere. Maybe you got like your kids. Your kids are off doing who knows what. You got your work, your job, everything else, and it's all a mess. You don't see the big picture. You don't know what's going on, and it can just cause chaos. But thankfully, we don't have to worry about like what our life looks like at the moment. Now, yes, we do worry very often about what it could be going on and like maybe what's going on, like where your kids went. These little guys over here, you don't know where they went or what they're doing, and sometimes they can bug you. They can make dumb choices. They can do things that upset you. And maybe like your work or your job. Maybe you're not where you want to be in life. Maybe the work you're at sucks. Maybe the people are mean, people don't appreciate you, or maybe even just it's not the job you wanted. You're not making enough, whereas like you're not making what you think you should be making, or maybe you're not even making what you need to move on with your life. Me personally, I'm in a spot where like I'm not making what I would like to make, but there's not a whole lot of options I have right now. So my life seems a lot like this at the moment. Like there's pieces everywhere and you just don't know what's going on. And that can be hard because if you don't know what's going on, you can often feel stressed like, oh, I don't know what's going on. All these pieces all over the place. They're doing who knows what. And I'm just so stressed out right now. Well, thankfully, we are simply human. So we look at it from your perspective right now. You're looking at it from this way, where you can only see these parts here. You see everything. You see like the work, the kids, you see all that stuff. And you see me slowly taking pieces away. Now, you might be able to see how they're moving in strange ways. I might even show you right here. I might give you a good view of how I take these two pieces and put them together. But that doesn't mean that you can see what I do with them once I take them off camera. You don't have the full picture. And in our lives, often we don't get the full picture of how life works. God doesn't always show us how it's supposed to be. And you might have an idea of where this reference is going just by the fact of I'm talking the way I am and I'm moving the things that I'm moving. But either way, I'm going to continue with the reference of the pieces are slowly drifting away and they're slowly moving on and doing things that you can't see. And the more I take, the more you don't see what's going on. And that can be stressful. All of a sudden, like all the things that you thought you had are starting to leave. And all the pieces that you thought you could count on, like your kids, your work, your job, are slowly disappearing. Now, sometimes God tells us what we're supposed to be doing. He tells us, hey, I'm taking this away to build something out of it. I'm taking this away for a reason. All of my plans have a purpose. And sometimes he can be totally silent. You may not know what's going on. All you see is just stuff disappearing. And you can start to be panicked. It'll be like, hey, okay, this is gone now, okay. That's gone now, okay. God, are you sure about that? Are you really sure you need to take that? And we can get super stressed out about the stuff that we see leaving. And trust me when I say that, like, I of all people know how this feels. I've tried many things in my life, and it seems like a lot of them haven't worked out. And I'm not trying to complain about that. I'm just simply saying that, like, every now and again you'll get put in a spot where you kind of question what's going on. But that doesn't mean that chaos is reigning. That doesn't mean that you don't know what's happening. I mean, that's technically you don't know what's happening. Sometimes you might, but other times you don't. And that can be good. Maybe, say, if you guys could talk to me right now, which there's a way I could live stream, and then technically you could, you might say, hey, well, if you took this piece, you can do this. Or, hey, if you took that piece, you could do that. And then I would be like, oh, sure, maybe I could do that, but I'm going to keep going. And then you'd be like, no, I needed that piece to do this. That's kind of what we do for God. We'll often say, God, okay, I know you have a plan, but here's my plan. It's been said that the best way to make God laugh is to tell him what your plans are. Because, honestly, God's plans aren't the same as ours, and that's a good thing. We might say, oh, I plan to get married, have 5 kids, have a great job, and then just live the rest of my life in peace. That's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to live my life, I wanted to do things a certain way, and I just wanted to be the classic American family. Have a job, have a wife, have kids, and be done with it. I didn't expect that God would call me to be a preacher or somebody to share his word. I may not be able to be a preacher eventually. I might do something totally different. But all I know is that God has a plan. And every time I see pieces taken away, I personally, this is where I need to grow, I get upset because I do exactly what I said you guys might do of hey, I could have done this with that. Or I could have done that with this. And God, what are you doing? I could have done this. But just like you guys, we don't see the big picture. And I know I seem like I'm repeating myself a lot. That's because it's taken me a little bit longer to build this than I thought it would. But ultimately, we can trust that God is the one true king who knows what he's doing. He's got a plan, even when we don't see it. It might cause us confusion. It might cause us worry. But don't be totally afraid. I mean, you can be afraid because all of us will. That's just how humans work. But just trust that God knows what he's doing. It might not seem like it at the time, but he does. And he loves us and cares for us. So, that's kind of what I wanted to illustrate, is that by taking all these pieces and showing you your perspective, you can say anything, but you don't see my perspective. And I have something very special that you don't. I can see it from the top down. From where my head is, I can see and hear where I've been building this. You can't. So everything that I've just done, you have to trust that I know what I'm doing. And in this case, it's a good thing that I have instructions, otherwise I wouldn't have a clue. But all that time and all that effort that you put into your life, if you do it for God, you can end up with something amazing. You can end up with a life that God has for you that you could have never planned. He will take you in places that you never expected to go. And you end up with something pretty cool. Something that maybe you didn't expect, but something that is perfect in its own way. Something that just gets you a little bit closer to God's plan. Even if you didn't see it coming, God did. And you can end up with a pretty cool space exploring life.